Welcome, everybody.
Good evening.
Lions and I don't think there's anybody but Lions out there tonight. Remind me who's on. Let's take attendance quickly, fast. I know Keith's there. Who else is there? Bonnie's there.
Yes.
Todd, are you there?
I'm here.
Galen, are you there?
I'm here.
Who am I missing? Help me. Help me fast.
Patty.
Patty from New Freedom.
Patty, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, good. All right, I think I know what I'm doing. We'll go as long as it's useful tonight, but we won't go beyond 90 minutes. Then it's Dennis or anybody. 10 minutes before 90 minutes, somebody give me a, if we go that long, somebody give me a clue. If it's 10 minutes before 90 minutes, before 8:30. All right, guys, I want to ask you a question. What's the health of your clubs? Bonnie, what's the health of your clubs?
Well, I didn't look at it before the meeting.
Give me some thoughts off the top of your head. Pick out a couple of clubs.
Off of the top of my head.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty healthy.
Okay. All right. Are you concerned about any clubs?
Yes.
Okay, well, I heard that. Let's do this. There are about 5 of us, 6 of us, 7 of us on the call. We are going to mention clubs' names tonight because I think it will be helpful to do that. But in mentioning clubs' names, we are going to keep that, whatever we discuss, we're going to keep that information among us. This is just for our discussion this evening. We mention a club's name and talk about it, and I'll use Aaronsville as an example later on, just because I'd like to ruffle Dennis a little bit. Let's just at some point, and we could do it now if you're comfortable doing it now, but at some point this evening, we'll get to a point where it will be helpful if you're comfortable enough to mention clubs' names as we go through this assessing health process. Okay? Are you with me? Hey, Todd, what's the health of your clubs?
Generally healthy. There hasn't been a lot of growth in terms of membership recently, but some are working on it. Clubs are definitely making an attempt to stay active in terms of service projects and fundraisers. Although definitely with the pandemic, we're seeing a little bit of slowdown there. That's only to be expected. But I think up until this past year, I think from what I know of my 5 clubs, they've been doing pretty good.
Name me just off the top of your head quickly your 5 clubs.
My 5 clubs are West Manheim, which is a small club. trying to think what they have there, maybe around 15 members.
Mhm.
Littlestown, and they're only at 12 members, but they seem to be doing okay with, even as a small club. New Oxford, and I think past district governors Lisa and John really helped push them along. But after attending one of their meetings recently, they seem to be doing okay. East Berlin, I don't know as much about yet. I have yet to get to East Berlin, but knowing their officers, they sound like they're doing okay. Again, I'm not sure what their membership is. And my own club, Hanover, which, while large in numbers, 38, sometimes actually even for a large club, I get more concerned about my club than some of the other clubs.
Hey,
And that's
I like
because,
hey, I won't say more about this, Todd, right now than to say I like the way your head works, Todd. I appreciate that. Galen, um, any thoughts about your clubs?
Well, I think for the most part, now I've not made personal visits yet, only visits with the district governor with 2 clubs to go yet. So one club our clubs are Shippensburg, Newville, Plainfield, Carlisle, Jacksonville, Bowling Springs, and Mount Holly Springs. So I've not met at all yet with Mount Holly Springs. But the ones I have met with seem to be vibrant. Of course, attendance is down. Difficult to get new members right now. One of the things I'm observing, though, is, and this is true of Shippensburg as well, that the clubs are aging, and that's part of the blame. But I'm finding that only about 30% of the members are carrying the load as far as activities and projects and fundraisers, and the rest are just kind of there.
Galen, that's great. Also a nice summary. You notice, folks, we haven't moved very far in our presentation yet. But let me ask you one more question. Just before we get started in all this. If you were going to, off the top of your head, measure the health of your clubs, how would you do that? I'll give you 30 seconds. Think about it. 30 seconds, that's all you get. And then I'm going to start calling names. How would you, off the top of your head, measure the health of your clubs? Okay, Keith, I've kept you out of it this far, but I'm ready to get you in.
I think the first thing I would start with is see if they're reporting their service.
Okay.
I think there's still a lot of issues with clubs that are not reporting. And I still think there's a lot of questions by clubs on what they can and should report. Even though that we've tried to talk them through it, at least for the last year, I think there's still a lot of questions in their minds, and I'm not sure why, but I don't think the service hours that are really happening, the actual service hours, are really being reported. And I have that issue with the Brogue Club.
Yeah, I think that's widespread. And I think it's uneven. I think clubs that are even reporting vary, because I think a club that's reporting and looks good on paper may not have reported completely what they've done. And that's kind of what you're suggesting about Brogue. Todd, what about you? How would you measure, if just off the top of your head, before we look at any of this, if you were thinking about measuring the health of your clubs, how would you go about doing that? What would you look for?
It's probably tough to do it off the top of my head as I've already gone through your participation manual.
Oh, you cheated. Okay, go ahead. That's good.
Way to
Yeah,
go,
my-
Todd.
My wife, listening to Keith, he sounded like he came right out of the participation.
I tell you, I
But-
need to give you guys all apples in that case.
I know my wife said, "What do you got homework there?" I said, "No, I just want to be up on what's going on tonight."
Yeah,
But-
there you go. I like it.
I think regardless, I would probably look at a couple of things. Number one, since we are a service organization, I want to see that they're getting out and helping the community in some way and serving. Hopefully, to continue that service, build membership, because I think the more members you have, the easier it is to do service. And a bit of fundraising along the way, because that always seems like something we do a lot. And then by fundraising, we're giving back to many other organizations as well. So those would be some of the things I would initially look at for the clubs in my organization. After going through training, though, I would hope to see some of the participation at the zone and district level as well, though.
It's funny, Todd, that you say you pull out fundraising and, like it's a PowerPoint slide, at least in my head anyway. But, I've often thought we do a fair in Newville. And when we record that, we record it as a fundraising activity. And truly, it is our major fundraising activity. But I have a hard time not thinking of it as a service activity in Newville. Because the reason we do that event every year is not only to make money, that wouldn't be any fun. We do it because people come, because families have fun. So yeah, we got to record it as a fundraising activity. But in my head, when I'm recording it as a fundraising activity, I'm also thinking of that activity as a service activity as well. Enough of that. Let's, Bonnie, any thoughts when you think about your clubs and how you would measure their health? How would you go about doing it? What would you look for?
I think, again, I'd look at the reporting of the services they've done within the community. And I think a lot of that isn't being reported because the people aren't properly trained. And they haven't participated in any of the trainings.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to grow because of this COVID, but
Hey,
some of
Bonnie,
my clubs aren't even meeting, but some of mine are.
Bonnie, remind me at some point to mention GAT, Global Action Team,
Okay.
because these three things, again, it kind of gets to this pull between fundraising and service, but these three things that we do, membership and leadership and service, they all kind of work together. They're always churning, one churning with the other at the same time.
Well, do you
to
think some
make
of the, do you
it's
think some
not
of the,
that one's working on its own. Go ahead, Bonnie. I'm sorry.
no, I was thinking so many of the people are having so much trouble with the reporting system. And
Yeah,
I know different clubs have
absolutely,
said they've
absolutely.
tried and they have so much trouble. I know Carrie said he's had trouble too.
Yeah, maybe we have to do a training on just on my line again. Yeah. Thank you, Bonnie. Hey, Patty, I didn't mean to leave you out. Patty,
Okay.
Patty. Okay. Thinking about all the bad things you think about of New Freedom, or other clubs you know in the zone. What would you look if you were going to measure the health of the clubs in your zone? What would you look for? What would you think about?
I
How
would
would you
look
measure
for,
health? Pardon me?
I would look for service activities, number one.
Okay.
And also, I agree with you as far as the service activities, because I have reported our service activities in New Freedom. But a lot of times when we do all the prep work for our big fundraiser at Carnival, I put that under one thing, and then the actual night I put under fundraiser, but we do the whole week. So I also go in and put it under again as a service activity, because we
No,
are serving.
you
I'll
put
do
it
it
in
twice.
twice.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. Some of it I'll put in
Okay.
twice.
Oh,
Yep.
never thought about doing that. That's great.
Yeah. And then
Okay,
we,
let me hit Galen yet, and then I'm sorry to cut you off because
oh, that's okay.
we're gonna keep moving here, and then you're gonna see that many of your comments are gonna show how precocious you all are as we go through this presentation. But hey, Galen, as same question to you as you think about your clubs. And you think about making your club visits. And thank you for sending an invitation to Newville and planning a time to visit with us. I appreciate that. As you think about those club visits, what are you looking for when you make those club visits? How do you want to know what's going to tell you that this is a pretty healthy club? Or, ooh, this club has some problems.
Well, I think how they internally react with each other during the meeting, if they're kind of reserved, or if nobody comes up and talks to me, I in my invitation, or when I send it my email, I put in there, you know, I'm coming for the opportunity to you to present needs and ideas to me so that I can bring in whoever can help. Uh, and I offered, you know, to just be a little, make an announcement or just mingle, or even to be a program for that evening if they wanted to, and they could select what they'd like to me to try and give them information on, or I would just give them something of my own choosing. But I'm there to try to get a feel of the pulse. I mean, the district governor visit is nice, but sometimes it can be rigid because they think, oh, you know, we got to be in protocol here tonight. Where if I visit on my own, they may be more laid back, and hopefully I'll get some good feels out of those visits.
It's just Galen. Hey, Galen, off the top of your head, looking at Shippensburg, what would you say? Good club? How good? Top of the line? Things missing?
Yeah, we're a good club. We've lost, I think, 4 members this year because of age or health needs, or just they don't want to be around COVID. But we've had some real long-term members. I mean, up in the 40s and 50s, and far as years of being part of the club and a lot of years of service. And there's some dedicated people in there, some that don't do a lot visibly, but then when we take up a collection for LCIF, they break the wall at 8. So for that matter, I think everybody's on board and involved in one way or another.
All right, I was just interested in what you had to say. That was just a personal thing of my part.
Fine.
I appreciate the evaluation.
Well, our
Um,
clubs are close to one another, you know.
Yeah. I don't think we'll tear here any longer. If you look at your watch, I think we've already spent close to 30 minutes here. But I think it's important, you know, and you've broken out. I will point out to you as we go along. You've broken out the major components of the assessment process for assessing clubs. And maybe as we get to the end, we'll talk about what we do with that information. How do we act on that information? That might be the most useful thing for many of you who have thought about this before. And when we get to that point, we'll have another discussion at that time. So the session objectives are to identify the characteristics of health assessment. What's healthy? We will spend just a little bit of time talking about the club health assessment reports. By voice, how many of you have looked at the club health assessment reports?
I have.
No, I haven't.
I have, but it's been a while.
So it's many of you have at least looked at them. I think it's probably, we'll talk about it later. I'll leave that go. We'll just let it go. And then how do we use resources to boost club health? We'll come back and look at that at the end, and in your own head at least, and in your evaluation of what we've done here, you can say, did we meet those objectives or not? What are healthy clubs? I think you've talked about a lot of that. Many of the characteristics that you talked about, I think, indicate what the characteristics might be. Just quickly, let's go around one more time, and we'll start with Patty, and we'll go backwards this time. No, if I go backwards, I have to start with Galen. We'll go backwards the way we did it the last time, and name 2 characteristics, Galen, of a healthy club.
Being of service to the community, being visible in what you do.
All right, Patty?
Reaching out to the community to get new members.
All right.
I also think it's important, like, because Carrie's really good at this in our club, is like helping new people like myself take over leadership roles. So you can become an all.
Okay. Bonnie?
I would say also growth of your club.
Yep. Okay.
And another thing would be how active your club is in doing service
Okay,
projects
that's
and
good.
meeting.
That's good. Todd?
Um,
They
I
may
think
have covered, they may have covered the territory for you, Todd. If you
Well,
have
that does-
anything else, if you have anything else, and if you don't, that's fine too.
well, one thing I see sometimes in my own club, and I think because of the way clubs are built, we have a lot of older members. Keeping those older members involved, both in activities and also in leadership roles.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a balancing act there, older and younger members in a club. How do you keep that balance right in your club? It's a little tricky. Galen, not Galen, Keith.
I think if you look internally at the club, at the meeting level, and even at fundraisers, I think, do the members enjoy what they're doing? Are they having fun?
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate the fact that Governor Tom mentions that so frequently. It doesn't show up a lot of time in the measurement tools. Is a club having fun? But I think in your own personal evaluations, I think that's not a bad characteristic to put down. Are they having fun as a club? What's the camaraderie like in that club? How are they getting along together? Are they supporting each other? I think that's important, Keith. We'll move on. Does any of that look like it makes sense to you? That's LCI's thought about some of the elements of a good club. The one there that maybe we didn't mention very much is the club officers participate in leadership training. And I think about Newville, and that one concerns me a little bit about Newville. I think we could do better. We have some who do and do it religiously. We have some who do and do it casually. And we have some, unfortunately, who don't do it. So it's a big deal for me. I think a club as a whole loses the benefit of that if the officers up and down the line aren't participating in the opportunities that they have available to them. Many of the others, in one way, shape, or form, most of the others, maybe all of the others, I think you mentioned. That brings us to club health assessment reports. I think most of you have seen these things. For those of you who have seen it, for those of you who have seen them, can you tell me, and we'll jump around a little bit this time. Can you tell me one indicator that's measured in a health assessment report? Can you tell me one indicator before we look at it, just off the top of your head? Can you tell me one indicator Keith, I'll put you on the spot first because I think you can be comfortable with it.
I would say first thing that LCI is concerned about is, are they in good standing? Are they
Yeah, yeah.
everything paid up to date?
Are they suspended for God's sake?
Yeah.
You know, because they aren't paid up to date. Yes. Bonnie, have you looked at the report and do you remember another measure that might be on that report?
Are they up to date with their dues that are to be entered?
Yes, absolutely. Patty, have you ever looked at the report?
No, I have not.
Okay, that's okay. No problem. We're going to look at it. And maybe we can figure out a way to make it available to you so you can see it. It's available to zone shares, and I think that is probably based on the hat you're wearing. So if you're not wearing the hat, it probably means you're not getting the report.
I think you're right, Dan. I don't think the club level has those reports unless there's a drop down on my LCI that they can get their own. But I don't think that that's a.
That's possible, huh?
Yeah, I believe. I think.
Is there anything available in the insights?
You can look at your own club insights, yes.
But nobody else's.
But we get a report. We get a report that has all the clubs, though.
Yeah, you do. If you wear a zone share hat, you get the reports. Because that's the way this whole system works. You know, you get your reports based on the hats you wear or the seats you sit in. That's the basis on which you get reports. And I find it very useful. I mean, I'm glad LCI does it that way because it means I don't have to look at everything. But based on the seat I'm sitting in at the time, this is what I have to look at to do it. Galen, have you ever looked at a report and can you think of a measure that's on that report?
I have not seen it, but I would think a measure on there is, are you orienting new members?
All right, okay. Who am I missing? Todd, did I ask you?
No, you didn't.
I'll
Well,
put you on the spot. How about that?
not really, because if I'm thinking right, every time we go to a district governor's visitation with a club, he's basically going through the health assessment report.
I think you are right. I think you are right.
So one of those things he always asks is, does your club contribute to LCIF?
Absolutely, it's on the report. You're right on target. That's a measure. That's a measure. Who did I miss? Did I miss anybody? Okay. This is Patty and everyone else. This is the report that I'm talking about. It's nondescript. It's not anything that blows you away when you receive it. It's something you have to look at to make any sense out of. I'm going to look at, because that's kind of hard to look at, I'm going to talk from the October 30th health assessment report. And I will mention the specific clubs when I make comments. And then maybe we can take one club, and you can think about this, in each of your zones, and we'll go through the health assessment report with one of your clubs This is the last report we have. We don't have November's yet, I don't believe. So, Dennis, you're okay if I take Aaronsville to start out?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's, and let me say this before I start on Aaronsville. On any given month, you can have an indicator on your club, your own club, or any club, that isn't the way you'd like to have it as an ideal summary. But that all this is doing is taking a snapshot. So this is for the last 30 days that it's taking that snapshot. Or if it says year to date, it's telling you that. So it gives you that. It tells you that's what you're looking at when you look at it. Okay. So when I look at Aaronsville for October, I can see that Aaronsville a year ago had 30 members. Their current membership is 23 members. Their net growth for the, I guess, year to date is -3. When you look at that, now let's take another club. Let's take Carlisle. Carlisle in October, their member count 12 months ago. I just have to make sure my eyes aren't deceiving me because you're reading across lines here. They had 23 members a year ago, 12 months ago. They're now at 18 members. Their membership didn't change during this reporting period. If you're looking at that and thinking about that, how does that catch your eye? You know, what do you think about Carlisle, for instance? Or I could take Newville, and Newville says, I could pick any club, honestly. I could pick any of your clubs. Newville says 12 months ago, they had 45 members. Today, they have 40 members. And they added 1 member in the reporting period. There, I've given you 3 clubs. I've given you 1 measure. What do you think when you look at that? What's your comment? I won't call on anybody. Let me hear a voice. What's your thought about that?
I can make one comment. I guess
Oh,
initially.
Go ahead.
Initially, you could just look at the clubs who have lost members. Did they lose members because, maybe the other members were not welcoming to the other, people who joined, or did members get dropped off because of age or illness or possibly death? I mean, we had a death in our club, and several have. You have to look at both sides. And how are they retaining members, and are they orienting their members, or, it's COVID too. It's kind of tough to get.
Bonnie, you're making an important point. All this report can do is tell you the plus and minuses. It can't tell you the whys. So you look at this report For this glimpse you're getting, it tells you, it gives you some important information. But don't run out of your chair and take it to the bank at that moment. Stay seated in your chair, because all you're doing is getting a piece of information that you're going to consider. Somebody else. Keith, any thought?
That's a good question.
Those three clubs I mentioned, Aaronsville. Now, you unfortunately, this isn't an objective review we're making, because you know the three clubs, or you know at least some of the three clubs I'm talking about. Aaronsville lost some members. Its membership is down. Carlisle is where it was, although over the past year, they have lost members. Newville is down some members, but they added a member. What do you draw from that? Just without making any elaborate calculations. What registers in your head when you think about that?
Dan, it's Dennis. I think as a zone chair, one of the things that this can do, well, in answer to your question, to me it says, oh, we might be bleeding members. We might need to be looking at, at some of the club, like just my club. If I'm the zone chair, I might want to be reaching out to that club and saying, hey, I see you had you lost some members. Before I would do that, I would try to ascertain, did they have a number of deaths or something like that, or were these what's the reason that was indicated for that. So, but if they were drops, then I might be reaching out because it's a significant number. So I might be reaching out to them and saying, I see you lost some members. Are you? Is there anything I can do to support you with that? That kind of thing. But you can also look at your group as a total and see, is there a trend here going on? All 4 of my 5 clubs had membership drops this month. So you can start to see some trends maybe occurring, and what it might start looking for some of the resources that you might either bring to a zone meeting or offer to individual clubs to help them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Dennis. Let me take Newville for a second. 45 members 12 months ago. 40 members today. Added 1 member. That's all it says on paper. Your hair doesn't stand up when you look at that, because there, as Bonnie said in the beginning, can be all kinds of explanations for that. But let me remind you before I say what I'm going to say, that we aren't talking about this conversation. This is just between us and for the purposes of this class. I have some 40 years of history with Newville. I've been through a pretty painful year in Newville. There have been others before. This wasn't the first one. We've had some personality conflicts in the Newville Club. It felt like the room wasn't big enough to retain everybody. Good members, all members that could contribute. It makes me sick. Fortunately, at least one joined Plainfield. So they're a lion and will continue to be, serve. You don't see that on paper. It just doesn't jump out at you. But what you see might have raised some questions for you that you want to think about. And I want to say a word about Carlisle yet. I purposely picked Carlisle. Carlisle, I'm not asking Galen this, but for the rest of you from York County and wherever, Adams County, do you know the Carlisle Club? Is that a club that means something to you or not?
No, I don't know.
Carlisle has had a glorious history. Carlisle's a little like Shippensburg in some ways in our zone. Except they've taken kind of a fall over the years. Shippensburg has too, but not as dramatic as Carlisle's. And so its membership is down. They certainly would have had membership in the 40s, if not in the 50s at one point. They've had past district governors, multiple. When I was zone chair, I was concerned about Carlisle. I think they're doing a little better right now. But you can't see doing a little better in the numbers because the numbers aren't a lot larger. I mean, they're about where they were. It just, to be around, you feel some vibes, and that, just as you all know, that's the way it is. But I kind of went through that to say to you, the numbers are there. They're important. They're valuable. Take some time in the privacy of your study or wherever you sit in your house when you get your monthly report and look at it. Don't go overboard, because the meaning is not there. All it's there is the numbers. So when you look at any one club, you just have to ask why. And then, as Dennis said a while ago, there are places you can go to kind of ascertain some of that. Somebody, I think Todd mentioned a measure that's on that report, and it's contributions to LCIF. When I look down this report, I can tell that Shippensburg donated $850 to LCIF in this period. I can tell that, I wish I could pick out one of your clubs, but let's say Upper Adams County contributed $625 to LCIF. I can see the Mechanicsburg, somebody there contributed $40, and so on. So you get that measure, and it's not something you jump out of your chair about, but it's information for you. Somebody, maybe Bonnie, mentioned reports. And yes, there is a section on reports. Months. MMR, does that term mean something to everybody? Sure.
No, what is that?
Your membership monthly report, MMR.
Mumps, measles, and
It's-
rubella.
It's a bit, yeah, there you go. That's good.
For the nurses.
Uh-huh.
That's your public health background. It's
Yep.
saying that to you. The report tells you when the last reports was submitted. And what LCI wants from all of us is that report's submitted every month so that they know what's happening with membership. And I can see there's a club on here that hasn't reported for 16 months. I can see another club on here that hasn't reported for 9 months. I can see another club on here that hasn't reported for 7 months. And it goes down. Most of the clubs, over half of the clubs, are 0. A substantial number are 1, which probably means they missed a month. And then there are a few that might be 2 or 3 on the report. So the report, that's a measure for you. 16 months, it would probably raise a question for me if it was in my zone. And I think there's a reason for it, knowing the club, but that's okay. And probably the zone chair would know too. Let's take presidential rotation as a measure. Why do you think LCI would put in a measure on presidential rotation? Keith, why would they put in a measure on presidential rotation?
Well, they're concerned about repeats because of leaders not being brought up through the club.
Yeah, absolutely. Is the president always the president? Is there no turnover in the sense that people move through and move into other positions, and do other things in the club? Are we not developing any new leaders in our club? LCI is concerned about that at all levels of the organization. They even in their policies and procedures now have said for certain positions, you can't do this but one time. If you want to be, Dennis, give me an example. If you want to be
They're saying,
district,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
governors, I think they're going to have you can only serve once as a district governor.
Yeah.
And a 3-year limitation on zone chair.
Yeah. So they want, it's not because they don't, let's say you love your seat that you're sitting in. It's not because they don't want you to continue to do a good job in that seat. There are some people in our zone who it would be good if they served a lifetime in that seat. It would be good for the district if they served a lifetime in that seat. But it might not be good for the district in some other ways. It might not be good for even that zone in some other ways, because it means that new leaders aren't moving up through the zone to take positions in the district and in LCI, whether it's an international director position or whatever it is. So that we're developing leaders and our organization is vibrant. And, you know, I've always been so impressed. I don't know about the rest of you, but and the more I, of course, have been active in the district, the more I've appreciated this. But you look at our past district governors, look at Dennis and Carrie and Lisa and so on. Yeah, they did their thing. And Dennis and Carrie did it well. And I know, I thought as a zone chair, I'd be thrilled if they were each there for 10 years in that position. But that isn't the way it works. And so what does Dennis do? Or what does Carrie
Thank
do?
goodness.
Hey, are you putting in as many hours a week, Dennis? Unpaid hours a week as you did when you
Yeah.
were district governor?
Yeah, yeah. So,
You know, it is amazing to me
Yeah.
that there are guys like Dennis and Carrie and so many others that are putting in the kind of hours. I know, talking to Carrie, Carrie says he has a full-time job and more. You know, he says he worked, forget what he says, 12 to 15 hours when he was in his business and doing his job. Tom says that's what he was working. Well, they're doing it now. They're doing it in Lyons. It is amazing. It really is. I have
Dan,
grown
I
to
wanna say-
appreciate. I've grown to appreciate what volunteerism really is when you see it in action. It's impressive. But at any rate, I'm getting sidetracked a little bit.
Yeah,
But
let me give
that's
you've got a little less than 20 minutes right now, Dan. And
I
but
better get my.
appreciate your words. And I also want to say that the work is very rewarding. You know, and I don't want that to be an off-putter for folks as far as the time commitment. And you know, it varies. That time commitment varies depending on certain times of the year. But you get a lot of rewarding experiences coming back from that. So you know, I have no regrets whatsoever going through it and being a part of it.
You think about, and I'm not going to belabor this much longer, but you think about, I don't know how many of you know, but I know that Dennis sits on the Constitution and Bylaws Committee for Multiple District 14. And I don't know how many hours he serves at that. But if I had a policy or procedures if and when I have policy and procedure questions, I don't have too far to go to get an answer to those questions because he knows that stuff like the back of your hand. But that's what makes this organization what it is that there are people like Dennis and so many others that are kind of in a quiet sort of way making that kind of a contribution to what's going on in the organization. There are other measures. I could probably sit and pause on any of these slides and get lost in them, just as I've done tonight. And we're going to breeze through some of the rest of them so I can get to some others that I want to spend a little bit of time with. I'm not going to spend any more time on the club health assessment report. I just think it's important for you to look at and take it for what it is. It's not the beginning and the end. It's just a piece of information that I think is valuable to you. So then the question is, beyond that, beyond your eyes and ears, which are always there for you, and which a number of you have talked about, and beyond the health assessment report, then what else is available to you? And LCI is very forthcoming, as they always are, and provide you with other things. This is called Club Health Assessment Action Strategies. And it's, I think that I put this in your binders. And if I didn't, I will see that I get it to you after the fact. Your binders are in process, and so I'm not going to do anything to disrupt the current compilation, but if it's not in there, I'll see that you get it. But this kind of says to you, okay, this is the situation, a club's losing members. Then what's the problem that's causing that? Is it poor club meetings? Is it club not able to support activities that are meaningful, and so on? And it gives you some suggestions for factors that you might use to evaluate. And then it gives you some possible actions you can take. So now we're getting to the next phase of our discussion and getting into possible actions. This is it's really, I don't know how it'll come to you in the binder, but at least for me in my own hands, it's a one pager with 2 sides to it. So it's something I can refer to and can look at. And then let's look at this. I did not put this page in your binder. I don't think it would be particularly helpful in your binder, but it is more helpful online because, like all the other things that are in here, if you go online to use this resource, there are links that you can click on. You can click on the blueprint and it'll come up, or click on Club Quality Initiative and it'll come in here, and each one of those publications that LCI has developed have a different purpose for clubs. And so if you're dealing, or a club is dealing, or you're working with a club that's dealing with an issue of some kind or another, these are resources that LCI has designed that can be responsive to a particular need that you have, that a club has, most likely. And each of these publications, I think they are all in the binder. That's good and it's bad. They're in the binder. They're in hard copy. They look nice in the binder. They're a reference material, a resource in the binder. But heck, you can go online and use these resources, and there are links, and you can click on links. So it just depends on what you're doing and how you want to use the information that you're doing. And the one in there that is not so much a publication as an award is the Club Excellence Award. And that has a purpose too. And it's not just a pat on the back. It is that, but it's not just that. It's really kind of a motivational tool. That's what it's designed as by LCI, a tool that you can use in your own club, that you can encourage other clubs to use, because it can be part of your membership drives. Because do you want to be better than you were last year? You know, do you want to get a Club Excellence Award? You got one last year. Do you want to get one this year? And so on. And I'm sure many of your clubs have Club Excellence Awards that you've received.
Dan, you're
So-
10 minutes to go yet.
Thank you, Dennis. I really appreciate it. I'll just say a word about peers, and then we'll go to the conclusion of all this. So we've tapped both your eyes and ears, your own eyes and ears. We've looked at the health assessment tool that you get every month. We've looked at LCI publications that give you resources, give clubs resources that they can use to address issues that they may be facing. And then there are your peers. They could be people in clubs, in those clubs, that may be facing something that would best be addressed before it keeps sitting there. It could be somebody like the district governor, or the global leadership team coordinator, or the global membership coordinator, who might have information that that would be available to you. Let's skip that one. Let's look at our characteristics, identify characteristics of a healthy club. Did we do that? I hope I didn't hear voices, but I hope there was an affirmation. I think we did. Did we analyze the club health assessment reports? I think we did.
Yep.
Did we look at resources to boost club health? And yes, I think we did that as well. So where does that leave us then? Leaves us kind of at a conclusion and just what do we think about? Let me first ask before I make some final comments on my own. Does anybody, I hope I raised some thoughts. Does anybody have any questions? I don't want to miss those. If there are any questions before we leave, and I'll wait for a voiced response to that. Can I assume that that lack of acclamation means that there are no questions? Hope it doesn't mean you're asleep. Oh, I heard some response there, so I take that positively.
You know, Dan, I think a lot of times you really have to look at it from the perspective that it's probably easier to understand once you've literally done some of these things. It probably makes more sense. I mean, I know with me anyhow, of all the trainings I've sat through over the years, you get book smart, but to really apply it makes a world of difference. So sometimes you don't know what questions to ask because you probably haven't run into the situation yet that would make you ask a question.
Yeah. Yeah, Keith, those are important comments. You don't, that's the tension here in all of this. The tension is that on the one hand, LCI is encouraging us to turn over the zone chair position. They don't want you in that position more than 3 years. On the other hand, I know with me, Keith, it took me a year before I got my feet on the ground in the zone chair position and begun to figure out, even though Dennis was there to help me at the time, and God bless him, he was there to help me. It took me a year to really get my feet on the ground. It often does for me. I'm a little slower than some people are.
No, I have to agree with you wholeheartedly because now I had my mentor was Doug Nace, who had been a zone chair for probably 6 years, and he had such a great relationship with the clubs in the zone that was something that was invaluable to him. Every single member of every club knew him. And when I walked in, it was like, okay, who's this guy? I mean, they knew me from attending zone meetings, but really they said, who is this guy? And I'm just now starting to build trust with a lot of these clubs. And I'm a little concerned about limiting a zone chair to a 3-year period because of what you say. Your first year, you don't really know what's going on. You learn it by doing it. You learn it by being out in the trenches with your clubs and them getting to know you. The second year is much easier than the first. The first almost seems like it's daunting. Like, what do I do next? But then the second year is like, this isn't that bad. It could be even a fun position. So I think by the end of the 3-year term, the clubs are just getting comfortable with a zone chair. So
And by the end of the third year, Keith, at least this is the way I felt. I did it for 3 years. I felt, gee, I was pretty darn good at it by the end of 3 years. You know, it just, I also know that I can get old in a position, me personally. And some people could go on and on. That's not, you know, it depends on your personality, whether you can do that or not. Some people can and some people can't go on and on in a position. I would say to those of you who are in your first year, and to Patty, don't feel as though in any way you're dislocated. Just be comfortable with where you're at. You're at the right place. It just, for most of us at least, takes us a while for us to get our feet on the ground and do it with some, in a way that we can not only be relaying information, which is what I felt I could do my first year. I could relay information from the district to the club, etc., and vice versa. But I couldn't be of much help to clubs in my first year. So it takes you a while to pull that off. Says my battery is running low. I wonder if it's a message to me.
I thought it was mine.
yeah, I did too.
Me too, I looked.
Just check the
Getting ready to
plug.
check- I was ready to check my cord.
At any rate, folks, I hope this was helpful. There are so many resources. I mean, Dennis and Carrie are both valuable resources that you can use. And there are many others. I think of George, in York County. Why am I not thinking of his last name? I mean, gee, what a resource.
Reisinger.
Reisinger, yeah. What a resource. George, I sat in a training with George a year or so ago that was done in York Springs. And just the ability to hear George talk kind of comfortably off the cuff about his experiences and what he knew, I thought was such a valuable resource for people. There are so many in our zone, and we just have to make use of those resources that exist. I won't try to name them. In many cases, in most cases, you know who they are. Use the resources. They're there. They're happy to do it. They'll tell you if they can't do it. I think most of them will at the drop of a hat, but they'll be available to you. With that, I'm ready to say good night. Thank you all for your attention, and we'll be with you. And I'll get those daggone binders to you, even though I won't make it by the cabinet meeting. So thanks, folks.
Thanks, Dan.
Dan,
Thank you. Good night.
Okay,
night.
have a good evening.
PDG Dennis, I have a question for you regarding president training.
Okay.
The training that you did for the district, is that recorded?
Yes. I think
It is.
the
It
YouTube
is.
link is posted on the district website, Dan.
Yes. My memory's not the greatest, so I'd have to go back. I don't know if I could be of any guidance in terms of how to find it. I'd have to explore myself.
You want me to send it
But
to
it
you?
is. It's
Yeah, the reason I
recorded.
ask is I have a friend in another district who is really bent on serving as president next year. It's a woman, and she's in a club that's, I guess there are some members that are hesitant about having a woman president. And I keep encouraging her, telling her that, we have a lot in our zone, really. And her goal really is to go much beyond president. I think she's looking at district governor. So I really want to encourage her. So I was just telling her some of the resources that are out there. I sent her a copy. I downloaded and sent her a copy of the president and vice president ebook. I said, this is probably a good place to start. And then I wanted to see if it would be possible to send her your training package as well, because I really liked the program that you put together.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you the link to the I think it's a YouTube recording. I think it's Al Deal set up a YouTube channel or had his own already. So
Oh, okay.
Those train-
I know there's a ton of stuff out there, even on LCI, but their search engine really stinks. So
those trainings, those regional trainings, those district trainings that were done last year or earlier this year, actually, are mostly recorded. I think there was one we didn't quite get recorded. I believe it might have been Lisa's that was only partially recorded, but they're recorded and available. I expect we'll do them again this year as we get closer to new people moving into new positions. So Dennis and Carrie and others will have the opportunity to do it all over again. So it will be available, and it will be fresh for people in those positions just coming in.
yeah, if we do it again, I might give her that link, and she could join in. And
that would be absolutely possible. Absolutely. Give her the link. We'll
try to
let her
keep her-
join.
well, try to keep her encouraged as much as I can.
yeah.
That would be great. That would be great. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a
Get it in
question.
order.
I was going through the District 14C club assessment reports. I have to admit I was cheating while you were talking. I was looking at some.
All right, go
But-
keep cheating. That's okay.
But I noticed in one of my clubs, as president, it said about repeating. Does that mean one individual repeating just for a while? I noticed the one club, it says 12. Does that
Yeah.
mean the same guy has been serving as president for the last 12 years?
Dave
I know
Osmond,
what club you're
Littlestown.
talking about.
Littlestown, Todd?
Yeah.
Oh,
Is
and
it-
what about East Berlin?
Well, they finally have a new president this year.
This year, yeah, but that was a long time too.
In fact, that's why they awarded Melvin Jones to both Linda and Greg last year, because of their long service as president and secretary. But yeah, I noticed Dave Osminski. In fact, it was something I hadn't even seen that before, but I was disappointed when they didn't show up for my zone meeting the other night, because that was something that was on my list about, different leadership positions and things like that. And yeah, I just happened to notice it says 12 on their club health assessment.
But I think we all have that in some of our clubs.
Oh,
I
I'm sure.
have it in some of mine too.
I think who was it? Jake Anderson did that in Penn Township for several years, because nobody else would ever step up
Right.
when she served. But I noticed those two clubs also, East Berlin and Littlestown, also haven't reported any activities in like one 12 months and one 16 months. So,
Yeah.
and again, I don't know if because the secretary doesn't use a computer that much, or what the situation is. But things I'd like to talk to them about and see if I can help them resolve those issues.
One of the common things that seems to be happening fairly currently is clubs that repeat presidents for a 2-year period. They just do an automatic 2-year candidacy. So is that something that LCI is frowning on?
Well, when I did 2 years in concession, it was because the one that was to follow me had a health issue, and he, at the last minute, it happened and he couldn't do it. So they asked me to continue, and I did.
I haven't heard that LCI is like discouraging that per se, if that's the way a club wants to. Technically, they're still supposed to hold an election every year and re-elect that person. It's not like, because I think that's something like a
Right.
constitution and bylaws thing that you can't, a piece that you can't change from the standard bylaws. But yeah, you can elect the same person again, but they should still conduct an election to elect them. But I don't think that they've necessarily frowned on that or come out with any kind of public thing that says that's a no-no.
Okay. That's all I had.
All right,
Yeah.
guys.
Right.
Okay.
See
Good
you
night.
on
See you
Saturday.
Saturday.
Yep.
Yep. See you Saturday.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.